putting this together, John.
Yeah. Thank you, John.
Yeah, no problem. Like I only got two properties myself, so this is not a mastermind like guru class at all. I'm learning as much as anybody else during these things. So I invite people, turn their videos on, turn their sounds on. Let's actually have a conversation during this. Because everybody has like a different take. When a lot of people are talking about co-living, if you weren't, when was it? Probably 3-4 weeks ago now, during the first one. Like I consider a lot of things co-living, everything from sober living to like the silver living homes to the sober living homes, like all of those where you have unrelated people living together. That's co-living in my book. Right now, between the two properties that I have, one is master leased, and the guy who's master leasing it from me, he's doing outreach to nonprofits, domestic violence survivors, single mothers, that type of thing. And then the second one is how I'm going to do most of my properties. That's regular rent by the room, co-living, but it's more household led, where the entire system that I'm putting together is trying to get the people to talk together, try to form an actual household. So the first time it was like a general overview. I need to post these links to the Zooms so guys can go back. Really good conversations about pad split, really good conversation. Is she on today? No, I don't see her. I believe it was Victoria. She's down in Las Vegas. She's setting up a lot of pad splits, but she's doing some heavy renovation with like garage work, that type of thing. Today, I want to talk about tenants, and I saw this earlier in the week from at least 2 or 3 people in the sub-2 forums in the Facebook group, and it's talking about where do you market these things? How do you get people? How do you find if they're a good fit for your particular property and that type of stuff? So right off the bat, you can call them whatever you want. Tenants, residents is what I call them, members, if they're part of pad split. The reason I call them residents, and that goes along with the whole like household mentality, is I want to put into their minds that you guys are part of something bigger. You're not all alone sitting in your room. You're actually part and you're a resident of the property. So somebody might be taking over more counter space than they should, or X, Y, and Z, and that forces people to have conversations. So, yeah, kind of in that mentality. So how I go about finding people is I use 3 primary platforms right now. Number 1 is going to be Zillow. I forget when they did it, maybe a couple of months ago. They put a rent by the room option. And they're totally fine with that. As opposed to apartments.com, you have to kind of put up the entire unit or house, and then once you start a conversation with the individual, then you have to go into, hey, this is actually just a room, it's not the entire place, which you can see could cause you to like lose time. It could be pretty inefficient when it comes to that. Zillow, Facebook Marketplace, I've gotten a lot of traction off of. And then Craigslist, I've only had 1 or 2 people reach out to me about my property on there. In Colorado Springs, it doesn't seem a whole lot of people reach out in that way. And then where's the other one? Oh, just straight Facebook groups. Search for whatever market you're in, and then you call it housemates, call it roommates, roomies, all of that stuff. Is it Keem?
Yes. I use roomies.com too, so that's a really good one.
Yeah, I just started that, and it seems really good. I don't know. I'm about to hit the $8 for a week. $1 a day to actually like talk to people on that. I'm not too enthusiastic, but if it pays the bills, gotta spend the money, right?
Yes, sir.
Yeah. How are you finding good tenants off of roomies?
Yeah, pretty decent tenants. Yep.
Okay.
Young
And if you
working
guys don't-
professionals.
Yeah, a lot of professionals. I've seen that. Yeah, they're not like the C class. They're more of like the B class type of asset
Mhm.
that they're looking for. And I haven't gotten anybody off of Roomies. Have you used it extensively, or can you talk us through that?
I use it to get 4 people out of my co-living property. Um, it's pretty decent. Most of them are young, working professional, looking to save money to buy a house and whatnot. I do pay for the $10 a month thing to get the more exposure or whatever. Yeah.
Mhm. How many properties are you using that for? Are you just keeping like a Rolodex of people that are looking?
Mm-hmm. So I have a duplex and I'm doing it rent by the room, and that's what I'm using it for. I have a single family that I'm thinking about converting into a co-living space, but that's down the road.
Okay. Yeah, no, that's good. And then Sharon, do you want to come up? Because you've been doing this for 13 years in San Jose.
Um, yeah, I house hacked, so arbitraged a house in San Jose for 13 years. And was very successful at Craigslist. And I don't know why my camera, there it is. Let me try. There you go. Very successful on Craigslist. There weren't too many options when I first started. I also went to the college and advertised on where they have dormitories, things like that. And then when Zillow started, I put it on Zillow. And when I decided to do one room furnished, so not long term, I did it on Furnished Finder.
Okay. Are you pretty specific on who you're trying to bring into your properties? Is there like a segment of the population you're trying to serve? Because you mentioned students, anything like that, or are you just trying to cast a net?
Yeah, I was very successful with professionals and post, older students who were doing like medical training and traveling nurses. I found them to be responsible and clean. I
Yeah,
didn't want, I didn't need a party house.
right. Yeah, that's you have to be pretty intentional with that because your product is going to attract your tenants, is what I'm finding, and the location too. So, do you like to stick around hospitals, universities, or are you finding people will travel?
Yeah, so far I've stayed around, I was around San Jose State, and there were 3 hospitals under 5 miles away. So that really provided a lot of opportunity. So San Jose State, um, Santa Clara University, San Jose City College, 2 Kaisers, Regional Medical, uh, Valley Med, which is a regional trauma center, all within 5 miles.
So you're using co-living for it sounds like more like cash flow as opposed to kind of like a service.
At this point, it's still cash flow, and then I'd like to turn it into something more service oriented, serving domestic violence survivors and turned out foster children.
Nice. Yeah. And that's oh, I was just listening to it was either a Get Creative or a Bigger Pockets Real Estate Rookie podcast, and they were talking about doing a lot of outreach, creating a lot of connectivity to some of these other organizations where you don't have to necessarily start from the ground level building those relationships. You go and you find it was about nursing. It was like midterm rental, but the same thought process where
Yes.
you're not necessarily going to the actual tenants, you're going to the individuals who are either talking with another organization or talking with the domestic violence survivors, single mothers, that type of thing themselves.
So I had
Go ahead.
I had the opportunity in a former iteration of myself to be the domestic violence awareness counselor for Northern California district of the California Women's Clubs. And so I was able to go to many locations and connect with many nonprofits that support them. And so I have those connections, which are very valuable.
Okay. Yeah, that's definitely awesome how you can, you know, bring in what you're working on elsewhere and then actually, you know, build those relationships at that level. Dang. Okay. Well, that's good. I need to free up some time to do that.
Yeah. To branch out and do another for this area of service. My other one was for education. So.
Okay. More of that like college level or younger?
Actually, no. Well, I don't know that. Yeah, the nonprofit that I had before for education was actually an opera company. So it's, yeah, it still counts as a 501c3.
Yeah. Oh, that's good. Okay. No, so that, okay. Yeah, it's really good. And then when it comes to the older crowd, like you said, definitely clean, professional. They don't have a whole lot of issues going on in their life where cleanliness is the last thing on their to-do list.
Yeah. So I provided, okay, so I provided the high-speed internet, the washer and dryer, the, you know, all the cleaning supplies. I had the, you know, the monthly cleaning come in besides doing daily stuff, you know, so, and so one of my long-term, my tenants were long-term. One fellow was 6 years, another person was 8 years. So they stayed a long time. They were responsible, and you know, it was pretty good.
No, that's excellent. 6 and 8 years.
Yeah. So, and the college student was there for 4, and then he went off to NYU medical school. So, you know, and actually for that student, the parents came and checked out my house.
Was that just to make sure that it was clean and all that other stuff, or?
I think they wanted to make sure it wasn't a party house.
That's fair. That's fair. Okay. Yeah. Also, when it comes down to this, guys, make sure that you got a pretty rock solid lease agreement. Mine's it depends on if they have a pet or not, but mine's about 34 pages long. And it goes into pretty much house rules, and it's split into different sections and addendums. So you have the base for me where it's like any other long-term lease. And I do month to month, and I'll go over that in a second. And then the second part is I call it the household covenant, and that is forming kind of the bylaws of the particular house. And those are mutable when it comes to who's actually in the house. So I say, hey, there's no drinking in the common areas, but that's a household rule. That's not necessarily a part of the lease agreement. So, like, frankly, myself, I like to have a glass of wine or like a beer with dinner, but in accordance with the household rules, I can't do that in my own house. Well, I'll talk it over with the guys or the other residents and like, hey, is it okay that we drink in the common areas, just not to the point of intoxication? And that's another thing of trying to form that household so that they feel like they have not real ownership, but they have a responsibility for what happens in that house. And it drives conversations between the residents compared to, you know, some other models. Go ahead, Sharon.
I had how in California you have to be very careful about saying tenant or resident. So I had a housemate agreement, and all responsibilities were in there, like, you know, quiet hours and being respectful about, you know, not keeping the washer and dryer more than 24 hours. And I had rules about no smoking and no intoxication, no drugs indoors or out. So, and everybody agreed to those. and when I had a problem, because it was a housemate agreement, like a membership, I had no trouble getting people out within, 60 days if they were longer than a month with me.
Well, this wasn't pad split.
No, this was way before Pat split.
So it was like a licensing agreement, and okay.
Oh, I had an agreement. Okay, so I rented a huge house from a person who, this was actually their first rental, a 6-bedroom, 3-bath. And I told them right off the bat that I was going to be renting the room, and that he was totally in agreement with that. As long as he got his rent on time and his house was well taken care of, he didn't care. And you have to be just honest.
Yeah. Okay. No, that's good, because yeah, licensing, like if you look up the strict like legal definition, it's somebody can use a thing in parameters to the actual contract, and that's where like pad split gets their thing from. But let the lawyers do their thing and fight that battle there. So no, that's excellent. And when you said in California, you have to be careful calling them members or residents or tenants. What?
Yeah.
Can you
If
speak to
you
that?
call them, if they are a tenant or a resident, they have, you can hardly get them out. Okay, so if they are a member or a housemate, then the complications are less, and it's a much quicker process. So like in May, I had somebody go, I think he was a professional squatter. I didn't know that when I rented to him, but he started to cause issues on Memorial Day, and I had him out of the house by June 3rd. That wouldn't have happened had he been a tenant. It would have taken months.
That's interesting.
If not years.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to look that up for Colorado, because we got crazy laws here. Yeah, Garrett, go ahead. You've been raising your hand.
Oh, you're good. I just wanted to chime in there because I've been talking to Jeremy Kempter, who does a lot of co-living in Colorado Springs, Colorado in general, and he kind of said the same thing. He's going to take the member route, kind of like what Pad Split does. He's going to just call people members and have them sign like a membership agreement.
Yeah, I'm wondering if, yeah, I'm not sure about pad split. I looked into it. I couldn't make the numbers work for my properties.
They're too expensive.
No, not
Yeah.
using Pad Split, but like kind of
Their
using language.
paperwork.
Yeah, using their language.
Jamil and his sister Rahima have a membership agreement that we can probably access.
And that's what that was, the thought process I was going down, because calling them member, but still treating them in a certain way. That's why pad split has been in court so much, because it's like, no, you're treating them like tenants. So definitely having the paperwork and the specific, legalese written into those agreements in order to call them like legitimate members, as opposed to, well, it's a lease agreement. I just took out the language and now calling them members. Like, I don't think that would hold up. Maybe it would. I don't know. I'm not a lawyer, so.
Because I found it was really easy in the housemate agreement. I called it a housemate agreement. And there was a clause that was stipulating if anyone broke any of the clauses in the housemate agreement, that there would be an eviction process started.
Mm-hmm.
And they agreed to that by signing it.
Besides that one guy, have you had to like come down on anybody for any of those clauses, or?
I had one person who was an alcoholic that I had to remove, and one was harassing my service dog, so then I had to evict him. But other than that, over 13 years, 4 rooms occupied, that's pretty good odds.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely, like tenant screening, your product, the location, the price, it all goes into that calculus for people on whether or not they even want to take you up on the offer.
Yeah, my rooms were, they started at $1,000 a month. And I didn't take anyone under 6 months, just too much hassle.
Yeah, mine right now is month to month, but I take your security deposit if you stay less than 90 days. So,
Oh,
um,
I make them pay the security deposit, and if there's no damage when they move out, they get it back.
and that's what I want to do as well. It's just
But
them coming and going every month. That's not going to be.
yeah, that doesn't
useless.
work. Yeah. So
Mhm.
that's you have to make sure that you have that in a separate bank account so that it's always available should they decide to leave.
In California, do you have to have a separate bank account for each tenant,
No,
each member? No, good.
as long as you keep your records, you're good at, you know, you're okay.
Yeah.
You got to keep
Good.
those records. Yeah.
Mhm. Oh, excellent. Oh, I see Effie's on here. Hey, Effie. No, and kind of more of what I'm doing when it comes to tenant screening. After they sign on and they start to get serious actually about it, I invite them over. I introduce them to the house. If anybody's there, they could meet any of the residents. Once I start to expand, I'm going to place somebody in charge of doing all of those walkthroughs for me, somebody to actually do the onboarding in the house so that I don't have to come over because you don't do that with a long-term rental. And again, how I'm going about it, it's this is your household. This is a new individual. You guys need to take care of it and make sure that they're following all of the bylaws that you guys set up and that you guys are abiding by anyways. And so as you're going through that tenant screening process, I am kind of like putting them into the deep end right before they actually sign on and give me the security deposit so that they can see like, okay, this is how it's going to be. This is um, this is how it's going to be. This is how I'm going to have to live. If there's animals, right now, I don't allow animals in common areas unless the rest of the household is fine with it. And when the household is making decisions, I told them I don't care. Don't talk to me until you guys make a decision. I don't I can be there for a sounding board. I can give my opinion, but you have to talk and you have to have a household meeting and you have to come up with, okay, can this cat roam free throughout the house? This small dog, is that okay? Is everybody okay with the dog? If the answer is no, the answer is no. If the answer is yes, then I'll put it into the official household agreement. I'll print it out. I'll have everybody sign the updated version. And then that's what we're going to abide by the situation. Sharon, you're saying no pets. Yeah, I could definitely see that because I know lots of people in co-living, they don't allow pets at all because of all the conflict that it can cause. 100%. Who else is doing a lot of co-living? Yeah, damage. Yeah, I just had to replace all of the carpet from this second unit of mine. And I mean, it wasn't too bad, but it was still ripped up carpet, urine stains everywhere. The whole house reeked. And that's like the number one thing that I tell any of my tenants is like, it's your room. If you want to have 12 lizards in there, if you want to, be a hoarder, you want to keep it minimalist, I don't care. That's your private space. But once it starts to spill out, and that goes for sound through the walls, smells, any of that stuff, like now we're going to have a problem as a household, and we're going to have to kind of adjust on how we're doing things. A lot of gamers. All of mine right now are young professionals. So, I mean, that's the reality is they like to hang out in the room, even though I have a TV, I have a gigabyte fiber that's hooked on so they can watch, streaming movies. They're okay, but, they like to do their thing. And it's also in a Class C neighborhood. So these guys are working 12 hours a day, 2 different jobs. It's not like they have a whole lot of time to just like hang out. They just want to do their thing, kind of save some money in order to move on with their life in about a year or two. So, mm, yeah, so that's what I'm doing. Is anybody working pad split? I do. Sharon, yeah, I charge a full monthly rent for a security deposit. Um, I heard people, in order to attract, especially like affordable housing, they're charging less than that. You can run into some issues, especially if they're just going to move out in like a month. And frankly, that's why I do month to month, is that they can give me a 30-day notice and they can get out of the house pretty easy. Same thing, I can kick them out of the house and just not renew their month to month type of situation. But when it comes to security deposit, half security deposit, it depends. Is that what's happening in your market? What's the danger of that happening? What's your risk tolerance if they do move out and you're only able to take like half their security deposit? And then there is another system that's kind of like a floating security deposit where it's based on their credit rating, their man. First of all, I have a TBI brain, so don't bump your head too much, guys, because you just forget what you're talking about, like mid paragraph. Your references, that's number two, and then there's multiple factors. So I've seen like, hey, if you have below a 650 or even below a 600 credit score, you can still apply for it. Just know I'm going to charge you double 1 month's rent. And in Colorado, that's the max. Pet fees, there's maximums for even pet fees. There's maximums for the pet rent and all that other stuff. So make sure you do your homework with that. I imagine that as co-living continues to gain popularity over the next couple of years, that we're just going to see changes in state, even municipal type of rules when it comes to all that other stuff. Keem, the answer is yes. So I am paying for utilities directly, and then I charge a flat for my last house. I'm charging a flat $100 a month per person. And then I want them to be responsible for the utilities and kind of, police themselves up to, not take hour-long showers, not just, keep the TV streaming all night. Is that if we have more than a month above where the utilities are not being covered by everybody's utility fee, I'm going to increase the utility fee for everybody. And so that kind of puts a damper on that. And then 1 December, I refund everybody the overage for utility fees. So there's some incentive for them to save money, turn the light off when they're not in their room. And that's what I've seen. I see a lot of like the competition, especially in Colorado Springs. They have like utilities included, and that's typically like somebody house hacking. But I just like to break it down and be very transparent. Like, hey, this is how much, this is where everything is going. This is where it's going for mortgage. This is everything. I tell everybody everything because I don't care if they're going to live in my house. Whatever, man. Like, I'm not gouging you, and here's my proof that I'm not gouging you. I pay for toilet paper. I pay for paper towels. I pay for all of the things that people can potentially fight over. And I also don't want them like taking their nasty toilet paper back to the room and kind of doing this like shuffle. Like, I'll give you $10 a month for toilet paper, as long as you guys don't fight about how much toilet paper is being used. You just give me a text. And then I Amazon ship that stuff for, however much. Same thing with light bulbs. Anything in the common area, here's some LED light bulbs that are going to last for 5 years anyways. I don't care. Mops. One of the big one is going to be kitchen stuff. So fully outfitting your kitchen, I highly recommend that, because woe be somebody scratching somebody else's like favorite pan And I was like, oh man, you didn't use, you know, specific bamboo wood on my pan, like, and now there's a big fight. Now you're gonna have to deconflict that, or you're gonna have to get your property manager to, you know, deal with all of that stuff. And I self-manage, so I don't have time for any of that crap. Yeah. Yeah. Fully stocked kitchen. I make sure, because I have a full dining room plus space for guests. So my bedroom right now is my property I just outfitted is 4 bedroom. So I have a 6-person dining room table. And I also have 6 seats in the living room. Because again, I'm trying to offer the space for these people to form friendships, to create an actual household. Another thing, car space. And, you know, I said I'd hit on this every single Zoom. Parking, parking, parking. Somebody works the graveyard shift, they get home at 5 a.m. and they're in bed. And then somebody who has to leave at 7 needs to wake them up to move their car to get out of the driveway or something like that. Like, no. And if, you know, it's a 2-car garage and there's not enough room in that driveway for somebody to like get around somebody else's car, then that's 2 spaces inside of the garage and all the way down that driveway, even though it looks like a lot of real estate. Yep. Yeah. Be very intentional. And co-living, from what I'm seeing, is very forgiving when it comes to like making mistakes, when it's overpaying for certain services and all that other stuff, just because the cash flow is there. However, if you're going to do it intentionally and it's not like a backup to a backup plan, then looking for those corner lots, or somebody last time across the street was the side yard. So it was nothing but a fence. You could potentially talk to the neighbor and like, hey, I'm going to have, you know, right here, and we might have to park on that side of the street. They're not going to see it. It's not right out of their front room window. So they're probably going to be amicable for it. But yeah, those corner lots are pretty key to make sure that everybody has parking. I know like pad split, somebody was telling me that they actually do the math on who has a car inside of your house, and they'll go one step further and say, hey, for that house, we're not going to push anybody who has any vehicles because you're full up on parking. Like, okay. I haven't seen it. I've only heard it once, so I'm not sure if that's true. House cleaning. Yep. So I have, of course, I don't have it made yet. I'm actually making it this weekend. So this is my little schematic. I don't know if you guys can see that. Oh, stupid blurry. Let me see. Let me turn this off. No, that's my entire thing. I don't know. It's my little schematic for my little chore board. So I have all the chores written down over here, and I have all the names here. And then this is for a little point system up there. And what that is going to do is the names are going to be inserted on little tiles. And then the chores, I'm able to take them out every week. Well, not me. Somebody will be in charge, and that'll be a chore, is to reset the chore chart every week. Taking the chore out, putting it back on top, and it's just going to filter through all of the residents every week. And then I got little pirate booty here that's going to act as my little tokens for when people complete their chores or when they do stuff for the house. There's a point system, so people can visually come into the house, see who has done their chores for the week and who's actually helping the house out more than just the bare minimum. There's no like prize, there's nothing like that. It's just a reminder like, oh, this person is really doing their thing. Or whoever's in charge of making sure chores are done for the week, they can look at the board and they could be like, hey man, it's Saturday night, chores are due by noon on Sunday. Make sure that you're doing it tomorrow morning. And then if not, and it's been the 3rd week that has happened, now the house can come together and be like, hey, we have a problem with this. Sean, you want to unmute?
Yeah. So we just, excuse me, we just took down our first co-living property last week. So we got that in Texas. We got that going. Already got 2 people in it. In fact, the day we closed, someone was moving in that night. It was like, holy crap. So
Yeah, it can happen fast, huh?
Yeah, it could happen really fast. We already got our second one in there. So I was talking with my team about, what do we want to do about things like, guests, and then children, and then married couples, because I know you got to be real careful on discrimination or not discriminating and things of that nature. And then divorced couples, overnight, just all these little things. And so I said, I'm okay with the occasional overnight. And then my other partner, she's like, I wouldn't do overnight guests. I'm like, so here we already are, just us talking about it. And I know Pad Split's very strict on their rules, but we want to keep more of a cohesive house. So it's a slippery slope. So I'm just kind of curious as we expand, and actually one of my partners, she's actually stayed in one of the rooms. So she's going to be living, she's basically she's going to be managing it, building out our systems from the inside, and really dialing this thing in.
Yeah. So that's probably half a page in my agreement, and it's not in the household covenant. It's actually in the lease agreement, because I don't want the house to vote or even talk about we want guests to remain there for however long. Now I put it on driving time from where the guest is from. So if you're within an hour, you don't need to stay for 10 days. I said, hey, if these people are going to live in an hour away, they can stay for 3 days. No more than 3 days out of every 7. So, and I even have a little like chart, and it's like, hey, here's a week, here's a week. They can't stay 3 days more to the right or left on the calendar. And you can't have more than, I forget exactly, but it's very prescriptive. It's like you can't do that more than so many times in a quarter.
Okay.
And then you can't do that so many times in a year. And that's because, like, hey, these other people, they don't know your guests. And it's not like this guest can only stay. No, it's any guest for that amount of time. Like this is a place to live, and it's a place to, like, people are there for a reason. And that's what I like try to remind people is like, everybody wants to own their own house. Everybody wants the American dream, and they are doing co-living for a reason. And the more stuff that they have to put up with, the less happy they're going to be. So if there's this guest that's staying day after day after day, that's a problem. Now, I said, hey, if they live more than an hour away, they could stay up to 10 days. But you can only do that no more than once in every 30 days, plus or minus 30 days. So you can do that every couple of months, maybe once a quarter. And you can't do that for more than total 30 days out of the year. So you can have any guest stay for 30 days out of that year. Because I want them to treat this like it's their property, but at the same time, they have to respect the other people in the house.
Mm-hmm.
There's even taglines like, hey, these are the words that our house stands for. Respect is one of them. Cleanliness is another one, building that understanding in your addendum, whatever you want to call it, your contract, your household covenant, your bylaws, whatever. Like I encourage people to come up like, what should this house mean? Because some houses you might want to have children. Like that's part of my why is to have affordable housing for single mothers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know 4 bedrooms, 2 bath, perfect. Mom in 1 bedroom, kids in the other, and they have their own little bathroom for themselves. For that house, maybe it's love, maybe it's understanding, maybe it's patience, and then your rules, you tag like this specific rule hits on this keyword that our house lives by. Divorced parents with occasional kids, same thing. I would treat that as guests, but I would also make sure that there's an understanding between every resident. This is what I'm going to allow in this house. Because they won't be able to choose like, oh no, I don't like that guy, I like her, no. That's not your job. And even I'm not the landlord when I'm talking to these people. I'm the supporter. I'm the household supporter. I'm there to help them out. I'm not there to do any conflicts. I'm there to make sure the rooms are full and that it's maintained, that type of thing. So married couples, I would only put into like a master bedroom or a larger bedroom that's appropriate for that. I know there are some people that work with domestic violence survivors. Talisa Stubbs, she's down in Florida. There's a bunch of Floridians, so I believe it was Talisa who's doing it, and she will put either bunk beds or twin beds in rooms, and then unrelated domestic violence survivors for emotional support, just to be there and have a presence that aids in healing and all that other stuff. So
Very cool.
yeah, if you're doing outreach to some of these organizations, ask like, hey, what do you need? Like Oxford House does sober living. I've spoken with them on numerous occasions, and they like to take the master bedroom and they will put two beds in there, one for that household manager and one for the new guy or new girl. And then once like a quarter or two passes and there's no danger of them relapsing, then they can move into their own room if there's room for them. So like just having the conversation with both your residents, your members, whatever you want to call them, or the organization that you're working with. I'm like, hey, what does this look like? What is the expectation? Because for my master lease, I have to provide nothing. But that guy, he has all the furniture. He even installed cameras into the common areas because he's like, yeah, we've had issues with people stealing other people's food. And now it's incumbent on you to figure out what are you going to do about this? You know, so yeah. But again, it's taking the context of who these people are and why they would be doing co-living, living in that situation, like putting yourself in their mind and being like, how can I make their life easier to make my life easier? If I was in their shoes, what would I want?
And that's what I was thinking with overnight guests from time to time. I think it would be challenging. You have some, you know, they got some family coming in, they have a mom or a dad coming in, and you're like, nope, no overnights, period. I'm like, well, that doesn't create a very harmonious environment, but also it's walking the line of making sure that there's no abuse. So, but you know, it's organic, it's going to grow over time. The household's going to adjust. And then that's why I know right now it's like sometimes hard and fast, black and white is a little challenging when we're just getting out, when we're just getting started. And so far, so good. I just asked her about the tenants. She says they've been great so far. So, and granted, it's only been a few days, but it's good because the house isn't even built out yet. I mean, she's in there painting the, you know, because this girl really wanted to get in there, so she really needed to get in there, and she's been fantastic so far. But figure.
Yeah. That's excellent to hear. Yeah, one of my guys today, I just had a bathtub redone, and there's a bunch of like cardboard in the garage, and he's like, "Hey, do you just want me to break this down and take it to my work? Because I have a dumpster at work." And it's like, I'm gonna be there tomorrow. Like, if you want to take it in the morning, great. If not, I got it, man. And so they're, you know, you give them that like ownership behind it to like make some decisions that are not like world breaking, nothing that's going to like destroy profitability, nothing that's going to do damage to the house. And you give them the ability to make those decisions. And then, yeah, they will repaint it. They will make it their own, you know, because you could walk through a house and you're like, oh, I got to do this. I got to do that. I got to do that. Not necessarily, especially if, you know, they're all of my people are super grateful. You know, I have 8 rooms. They're all grateful because it's affordable, because of the things that I've done, like the high-speed internet and all of that. And I'm just keeping costs as low as possible. And every time there's an issue, I immediately call like a handyman or like somebody, or I'm on there and I show them like, hey, dishwasher's broke. I just bought that part. It'll be on the front doorstep tomorrow.
That's cool. You finding it about 10% war chest is about right on average?
Hey Sharon, thank you so much for sharing with us. Thank you. Yeah, no restrictions. No. Yeah, and it's, you know, sex, age, orientation. One person per room. Yep. And that really depends on what you're going after and the population that you're able to serve in that regard. I'm sorry. Sean, you were saying?
I actually just lost my train of thought.
Yeah.
I'll think.
Yeah. Who's got better memory?
Couples what? Couples ruin. Oh, interesting.
You can't say all this amazing stuff and then like have to leave. We'll see you later, Sharon.
So
Yeah.
I found that if I tried renting to a couple, and it just changed the total dynamic of the house, that people felt unequal. And so if it's only one person in a room and guests, if they stayed over 6 days, they had to contribute to utilities and the cleaning schedules and things like that.
I gotcha.
Okay, thank you so much, guys. I have to head out. Have a wonderful afternoon. This has been very helpful.
Thank you, Sharon.
Awesome. Yeah. See you next time. Have a great weekend. Yeah, that's an interesting, and I don't have couples right now, so I can't speak to that dynamic.
I was listening to one podcast or one thing, and they were talking about how you have to be really careful on like not discriminating. So there's just the, maneuver in the waters. And that's what I told my team. I'm like, let's just make sure we advertise, but we're not discriminating, and we have to make those decisions.
What I'm finding, at least here, is a lot of like ladies will be like, hey, I'm only looking to move into a house of other ladies. And I'm like, okay, I got 3 guys living in here, but I have a room. So you kind of just self-selected. And the only time that I would probably go to court is if I had like domestic violence survivors and they're all female. I'm not going to allow you to have male guests over. I'm not going to put a male resident in there.
All right.
I couldn't do that.
I was talking with Andres. He's got a bunch of co-living in northern Texas, like Dallas, Fort Worth area. And we were talking about leases, and he said that this is his opinion. He goes, membership, anything doesn't hold up. He says he has strong lease agreements, and he's had 2 attorneys vet him. And he said that's the only thing that holds up. So that's where my fuzziness still is where all that falls, because I know what Pad Split does as far as their membership agreements, and I know what kind of we're talking about just in general. And like I said, I think it's going to grow over time. Now, you personally, you have a 34-page what agreement? Is it a lease agreement or is it a member agreement?
It's a lease agreement.
It is a lease. So you've got a 30-day lease agreement.
Correct. Yeah. Month to month. And it's basically the Colorado residential lease agreement with co-living language inserted so that it is very clear that it is for a room. There's going to be common areas involved. And then outside of the regular old lease agreement section, I have a pet addendum. I have even an addendum on like why renter's insurance is so important. Just throw all of that stuff in.
So
there's no question when invariably it comes up.
Yeah. Do you require rent insurance? Can you require it in Colorado for you?
I say you definitely should get it.
Yeah,
yes. But I think 1 out of my 9 tenants actually have it. But there are times, and I got this actually from attorney written paperwork, that insurance companies will pay out for whatever damage. Let's say the bathtub overflowed and it caused a whole bunch of damage. And so you have an insurance claim on that. According to the paperwork and the people that use the paperwork, Grant Shipman, he's part of a co-living mastermind up in Denver. They've had insurance companies actually go after the renters for damages. And it wasn't the landlord, it wasn't the property manager, it was the actual insurance company that said, these are the individuals that are damaging that property that we are covering. We are going to try and recover damages from them. It's like, interesting. I haven't heard that before. But it's insurance companies. I wouldn't be surprised.
Actually, not to not to digress from this, but insurance in general, we've been discussing how to deal with insurance. So what we were hearing was steadily doesn't go over 5 rooms. There's other insurance companies, really hard to get actual. There's no real there's technically no real co-living insurance. It's just landlord insurance. But and even reading through all the forums, I'm finding difficulty is like, who's using what? There's a few people that post some independent. Some people are American Modern, are being written. But so we're going to check with Steadily because this place we have is only 5 bedrooms, so it definitely meets. But if someone has a 6 or 8 bedroom, there's no co-living there's no co-living insurance. It's just tenant insurance.
That I don't know.
Okay.
So there's a bunch of, I guess, insurance brokers, insurance officers, agents inside of Sub 2. Joseph Cohen, he's a broker. I go to him and kind of like reach out from there.
Cohen?
Cohen.
Cohen.
Yeah.
All right.
And then he goes out and he meets with dozens and dozens of insurance providers. And it's more expensive. It certainly is more expensive. As expensive as like a short-term rental insurance. So I think I'm spending like $250 a month.
Yeah. That's about the number we were getting. It's in that ballpark.
Yeah.
But for us, it's just wanting to be protected. I mean, I don't want to get something and then we have to make a claim and the insurance company goes, well, you didn't do it the way we're supposed to, so we're not gonna protect you. So we're just trying to find the right way to do it, and I don't want to lie about stuff. I just want to be honest and just say this is what we've got.
Yeah. What market?
Texas.
Texas.
So like I said, once we get above 5 bedrooms, I don't know. Maybe it goes to commercial policy or something else. That's in a part of the area we're not familiar with yet because we're right at the limit of our existing criteria for Steadily. So.
Yeah, I would think if you can't find anybody, we need to go into like the commercial realm. Be interesting. Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But I just want to keep these to like an hour. If anybody wants to stay on and just like talk about co-living, different strategies. Last time we spoke about looking for properties with the parking, different areas of town, how to attract different tenants just based on the actual property, as opposed to lease agreements and all of that stuff. Yeah, and if not, I'm having these like every other week. Just keep it fresh. I'm changing up things week by week, seeing how everything is, and I just want to bring you guys fresh stuff. And I also want to hear how other people are getting after it.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate that. It's very helpful. I live in Chicago, so I was last year when I went to the Squad Up Summit, I was like listening to like Florida and Texas were doing this, but I think Chicago was a little bit challenging from what I heard. But like with Sharon's on there, and that makes me like wondering, oh, maybe you just need to know the way to do it, whether it's more like a tenant friendly or landlord friendly states. But really appreciate you setting up the time, for us. Thank you.
And it's really weird that a lot of people are nervous about tenant friendly states, and I don't know. This has taken a lot of that trepidation from me in Colorado because of the new laws that made the tenant situation worse than California and Colorado. But at the same time, as part of that, now no municipalities in Colorado can restrict based on relations with other people inside of the house. So I can have 8 people inside of a house and no laws at the municipal or county level can prevent me from doing that. And so it's just interesting looking at the legal standpoint across the United States and how like sometimes the tenant landlord laws and like these co-living laws aren't necessarily of the same nature. So, mhm. All right, guys, if there's nothing else, thank you so much
Yeah, I
for
do have-
stopping by.
I have another question. Did you fully outfit your whole house?
Just the common areas.
So no beds in the bedrooms or anything for anyone. They brought all their own stuff.
I offer a third-party service for that, which is just me as myself, not through my company, and I will go and buy all those things for them, but it comes at an increased cost.
You have it amortized out in their cost in their monthly.
Yep. Pretty much just renting those things.
I gotcha. Okay, interesting. Thank you.
I think Garrett, you're on mute.
My bad. Thank you. I was just saying I do the same thing. I keep spare beds for dressers, things like that in the garage of the house. And then I ask the person, do they want it furnished or unfurnished? If they want it furnished, then I go in the day before, set it all up for them, and then charge them a little bit more. Like if I'm charging 700 for the room, then for a furnished room, it's 800.
And that's just every month. So even if the stuff only costs you a couple hundred, they're paying $100 a month. So if they rent it for 2 years, they're paying it for 2 years.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And then I think everybody else already kind of talked about this, but we pay for internet and trash, and then utilities are split between the house. But then I heard somebody else that I know that does a lot of co-living, they do just another $100 upcharge for everybody.
All right, guys. Yeah, I got these little ragamuffins that just got home, so I'm gonna have to get to running because they're already fighting. I got 3 boys, so tons of energy.
Oh yeah.
Cool. Thank you. Thank you guys. Have a good weekend.
I appreciate it. Thanks, guys. That was good.
You too.